We are live. Live on the air. What's up, everybody?
Hey.
What up?
Hola, Ryan.
Hey. How's everybody doing?
Pretty good.
Get the link to share with everybody.
Don't know what's even now. I'm leaving.
Cool. All right. Cool. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Midway Radio, which is the official podcast of Midway, the story of Chicago hip hop. This is our first episode. We did a little bit of a pilot last week, and basically what this podcast is going to do is going to kind of shed a little bit of light on the making of Midway. We're going to provide some updates as far as the production of the film goes, talk some general Chicago hip hop in general. We're going to have some special guests. We're going to have a lot of cool stuff happening. So thank you for joining. And our first guest to kick off the show is producer Doug Infinite, who will be joining us in about a half an hour. He'll be coming live from San Francisco. And with me tonight, I have some members of the production team from Midway. We've got Carlos Gomez, who is our technical guru and associate producer on Midway, Barb Kalicki, who is the social media producer, Kevin Beecham, who is the co-writer and social media producer, and Sean Doe, who just had a little issue with his internet, who is also one of our producers. He's coming back. And yeah, so anyway, we're going to kick it off here. Just talking some updates here while we get the ball rolling. Some updates to Midway. So last week, as everybody knows, we kind of curbed the interviews a little bit over the last couple of months because we're working on a lot of other behind-the-scenes things that are necessary for a production of this scale. And we're going to be picking up interviews here in the next 2 to 3 weeks, kind of back in full how we were going last year. But we did have 2 interviews last week. We had two great interviews, one with Josh Safe and one with Pathfinder, a.k.a. Brother Path, who was in town, and we wanted to catch the job before he moved to California next month. So there were a little bit of unscheduled interviews, but they got done, and I think that ups our total of interviews now to 152.
Hey Ryan, real quick,
Interviews.
how many surprise interviews do you generally get? Is that
Surprises in we weren't scheduling to do them?
Yeah, like how many people have actually been like, "Hey fellas, I'm in town. Let's get our chat on."
Quite a few actually, which is why obviously everybody's schedule's a little bit different, but that's kind of why we haven't gotten to interview some of the people that people are like, "Really, you didn't get this person yet?" And that's kind of why, because we're trying to catch those people as they come back into town, or as some things like that. So surprisingly, there's been a decent amount of people that have kind of just popped up when we weren't necessarily expecting it, and we got to try to make room for everybody. So
besides the time challenge, which is and by time challenge I mean setup time challenge, between having someone on the schedule and that they're going to be there versus basically a pop-up interview, is there, like, what's the challenge there? Explain to folks that don't really understand the difference between the two and how it could affect the interview.
Just me personally, I like being as organized as I can and being on top of everything as much as I can. So I like to plan ahead as much as I possibly can. And that's not to say that we can't we can't make it work. But when we interview these people, even people that we know, as I'm sure I mean, Kevin can probably speak on this too. But if we interview people, even if we know them, whether we know them personally or we just know them as an artist and their background and everything, you still want to do your additional due diligence and research and stuff like that going into an interview to make sure that everything's covered. So that's the only bad thing with that, is if we weren't necessarily expecting something, we might not be able to pull everything together ahead of time, and we're it's more of kind of like a free form type interview with things. Would you kind of say the same thing, Kevin?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, it doesn't matter how well I know an artist, how much I know, that I always do crazy research for an interview. So, like, the more advanced those I can get, always the better. But, I'm super nerdy like that. So.
Kevin, you were on radio for a long time in Chicago, weren't you?
Yeah.
Explain to some folks about your process with where you're building up to an interview with someone.
Well, for me, like, let's see. I started time travel in Chicago in '95, so that was like right before I discovered the internet. I hadn't discovered the internet yet, so I was like, my research was going through, like, magazines. I had this crazy magazine collection. So whenever I knew I was going to interview, I would go through this like years and years and years of magazines to find any information on the artist. That was how I had to do it. Like, get bits and pieces. Go back and read all their album credits and all the fine print in the albums and shout outs and producers and everything. So it was like really interesting process back then before the internet. I was just like digging up whatever I can through old magazines, old album credits, song lyrics, and all that. And then once we got to the internet, I did all that still, and then I could dig a little deeper. Because one thing for me is I want to ask artists questions they're not usually asked.
Mm-hmm.
That usually get a good response. A lot of times, artists, especially if it's artists doing like a press run, and they're just doing a lot of interviews all day long, they start giving you generic answers, the same answer to everyone else.
Right.
So I was saying they've never been asked before, at least early on, especially. They're like, oh, okay, it's something different that I haven't been asked yet, so they get a little more excited about it. One of my favorite moments of that is I'm a big fan of the Genius from Wu-Tang. But in his interviews, he usually gets like 1, 2-word answers back then. He like gave really short answers all the time. And I wanted to interview him, but I was like, man, I don't want to get those short answers.
Right.
And I got scheduled an interview during a press conference thing, and I was like, it's gonna be not good. But when I gave him my questions, he gave me like a 2-hour interview with super long, detailed answers.
Whoa.
And it was like one of the most detailed interviews he'd ever done up to that point. And when I posted it, like even people in the Wu-Tang were like, "Yo, this is the best Genius interview ever." He actually talked. So it's like, if you have the right questions, preparation, you can get something out of an artist. You can pull it out. It's a big difference.
That's really cool.
I think that's one of the things that makes us here kind of a good team, is because we all have that lover of music nerd instinct, because I was the same way. I was like, that was the first. I love those days of going and picking up the record or picking up the CD, and that's what you do. You put it on, and then you read the liner notes, and then you you go through that. So I think that's
notes, and then you learn the lyrics.
Yes. Anyone who ever worked with me on Time Travel Radio would tell you that every week when we came to Time Travel with the co-host and everyone, I had like a 10-page info pack for the show. I typed up an info pack for every show that we did on radio. There was like, we're announcing these parties, talking about these things. It was very, very like you were in a board meeting.
When you set up all your questions for your shows, did you submit the questions to the artists before they came on the show, or were you just give me what comes off the top?
Off the top, Nice. More recently, when I did some more video stuff, I've done the I go back and forth on that. Sometimes the spontaneity of just like asking a question is just the best way, but in certain questions I want them to think about it. So it really depends. So I might give like certain questions a little heads up, but a lot of things I think are better on the fly. So it definitely it depends.
Cool. I'm gonna have to pick your brain a little more, because I do my show every week, and I do my research beforehand as well, just because I want. And it's not that I have a certain set of questions. I want some questions that are going to trigger that conversation.
Yeah.
And because I want to know you. I don't, if I'm talking to Kevin, I want to know how would Kevin solve this problem? Or
right.
How did Kevin achieve time travel and didn't even know about the internet yet? Like, where did you learn about time travel and you didn't even Google anything?
Exactly. Oh, I just know.
And I think
I do what I do.
and I think that's the best way. That's where we get some of the best answers for Midway too. I mean, we've got there's a lot of people who have gone through the process now. No, we've got a set set of questions that we ask everybody, and it's around 20 questions or so, and that's and we do that to get everybody kind of thinking along the same lines.
Right.
Everybody's ultimately telling the story. There's going to be more hundreds of people telling the same story, and then there's some questions that we completely think it's like top of the head type thing. We ask people what I probably shouldn't say this for the ones that we haven't interviewed yet who are watching, but we'll ask a question, say, what is your favorite Chicago album of all time? Like, we like that spontaneous off the top head because it's like, because it's gonna be it's gonna be a little bit more true than them thinking about well, what is the right answer, what should I say, that all that kind of stuff. So
for sure.
And while we're talking about the internet, there's a handful of people that are watching the show right now. Feel free to leave us some comments or some questions even for the team, and then eventually, like Ryan said earlier, we're going to have Doug Inf coming on. If you have any questions for anyone on the panel or even Doug, go ahead and start getting them on the YouTube page, and we'll give you a shout out and we'll ask your question and all that good stuff. However, if you leave yourself open for some jokes, be ready. Don't be putting on some mess out there, and don't expect us to tee off on you.
Nice disclaimer. I like it.
Can we get that legally incorporated into the show?
It's out there now.
So as we're talking, and like I said, this is the first official show of the podcast. So I kind of want to make sure that everybody understands what the project is, kind of where it came from, where it's going, some updates, and all that kind of stuff. And basically we're reaching the 3-year mark from working on the film, at least from when I started on it. I started outlining it in December of 2013, and so December will be 3 years. In January, the first 2 people to come onto the team were Risky Business and Kevin Beecham in January, and we.
How important was it for us to get Kevin on as soon as we possibly could?
I'm very important. I mean, I've known Kevin for a long time now, with going up to time travel and just for events and everything like that, and clearly, gotten to know him and know that he's a great guy, and know that he's a hip hop encyclopedia, for one, and knew, Kevin, if a lot of people don't know, created the Chicago hip hop timeline that was posted to, where was that? I know it sits on G4, Kevin. Was that originally for Galapagos 4? How did it end up there?
For a print mag. I think it was You Are Chicago.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody knows that timeline for everything, and while that doesn't have every detail of Chicago hip hop on it, it's got a lot, and there's no getting around having to use that at some point for research for the film, and I'm like, they just wouldn't feel comfortable using that if he wasn't involved in some way. So,
and Kevin, how did you feel when these guys? You got these 2 knuckleheads. You got DJ and Ryan, Risky and Ryan, and I was gonna say his whole name, but then I was like, whatever. Like, how cool was it that you had this hip hop timeline down, and then you had a couple guys that came up to you and were like, "Yo, we want to put some video behind this whole thing."
Now, that was super cool. I mean, obviously, I too knew both of them from. I knew Ryan. I like Time Travel coming up there. I knew Risky from DJing, his mixtapes, and all kinds of stuff. And the Chicago story is a story that I always wanted to see get told, because like it's just one of those stories that people don't know about. I mean, I remember like I have like a distinct memory of going to New York in '94, and I remember like I was saying I was from Chicago. People were still surprised we had hip hop in Chicago. Like,
right?
Chicago? Oh, I heard like one guy. I know Common. They knew Common, and they knew Tone Be Nimble from the Superman battle. That's like the only thing they knew about Chicago was one DJ and one MC. And I thought that was all we had. Oh, you got more than that? You got more? And I was like, this is like 1994, and we're like a huge city in the like. Of course we have hip hop. Are you crazy?
Right.
So like like there was so much like people who didn't know the story of what's happening in Chicago, and so like it hasn't been told really. And there's been like a few documentaries that people have tried to do documentaries that never get finished or completed. And so when I saw one that had like a good team building and a good plan, I was like, okay, I want to be involved in this and see, I want to take it as far as we can take it. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, Risky, I think a lot of people know that Risky and I have worked together now for close to 20 years. We both started 800-pound gorillas back a long time ago with a few other people, and started building our relationships that way, as far as kind of the marketing end, and doing design and video and photos, and we did mixtapes and all that kind of stuff. So so I've known Risky for a long time. He was the first person that I called. Sean Doe was number 3 on the team, and Sean Doe is back with us after a little bit of an internet hiccup.
Yeah, that was cool. It just shut off right when we were supposed to go live, so I'm happy to be here.
How about that Netscape, Doe?
So Sean, we're just kind of talking about like the how we got the project started and everything like that. So when we first reached out to you, what were your kind of like initial thoughts about as far as like this project happening, what it is, who's involved? What were your kind of thoughts about kind of wanting to be a part of it?
Well, I knew you guys already, Ryan and Risky. I'd been working with him, doing shows and stuff like that. So when he told me who was on board, it was you and Kevin. I was like, yo, like we need to do this. I've always wanted to do something like this. Like I always wanted to tell the story. And I mean, it just came at the right time, brother. Like it just came at the right time. And I'm happy to be a part of it.
We're glad to have you a part of it, sir. So yeah, I mean, so as we continue, with kind of how it got to be, I think one of the things that we've got a lot of positive response from people on this is that it's a project, it's a story that's being told by people from the community.
Yeah.
It's not an LA production team coming in. It's not Spike Lee in New York coming in. It's people from Chicago, from the hip hop community.
Yeah.
And people
and now
that
that we're talking about
vested history.
And now that we're talking about that, like take a look at what, and I'm gonna try to keep my haterade to myself, but take a look at what happens when you get someone from not in Chicago to make a movie about Chicago. They make some hot mess that's Chirac, and I saw that movie, and it's not that even that they're making fun of Chicago. It's just a bad movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't. I mean, full disclosure, I haven't seen it, but
don't even waste your time. I saw it for free, and I wanted my money back.
I haven't seen it either, so
don't waste your time.
Yeah.
No, and I wish I could say better things about it, but I'm a fan of Spike Lee. I just think he completely dropped the ball.
Was that even supposed to be about Chicago though? Or was it?
If it's not supposed to be about Chicago, then why don't you go make it in Indiana somewhere?
Yeah, I really think that just just with calling it Chirac, it just made the attention to his movie. I think he had it called something else before, and they didn't.
Another bad movie. That was the title. That was the title.
But then when
the title was No Funding.
Then when he threw Chirac in front of it, it became,
attraction,
something that everybody wanted to see. So I mean, I still want to see it. I'm not looking at it like it's about my city, though. I'm just looking.
Right. Go into it that way, and you're still gonna think it's a bad movie.
Nice.
I mean, I gotta, I was willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. I really was. I'm like, yeah, I get it. The title is awful. There's so many things about it that turn me away. And I'm like, I'll see it. I'll wait and give it. And then the trailers came out, and I was like, nah.
I think once they put it on Netflix, because it's on Netflix, right?
I watched
Probably
it on Amazon.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. Okay,
Because Amazon is the one that
Amazon
funded
for
it.
free?
No, it's not free.
It's not free
No, it's not.
on
free.
Amazon.
I watched it free because I have Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I have Amazon Prime too.
Okay, yeah.
So you can watch it for free.
So once I saw it on there, I was like, I could just wait. There's so many other things to watch. Like I could watch something else, right? I could watch something.
Yo, I was watching that movie and I was like this the entire time.
Were you watching it by yourself, or were you watching it with?
I was watching it by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going in with a completely open mind because, like I said, I'm a fan of Spike Lee. I loved what he did with Do the Right Thing, Malcolm X, absolutely, pretty much everything that he does.
Yeah.
But this one, I was just like looking at it like, and then the one reason why I did see it was because it's based off of a movie that was, based off of a stage play that was written like 1,000 years ago.
Right.
And so I wanted to check it out to see, and I was just like, oh man, oh.
Some of the best.
Yeah. Anyway.
Like you enjoyed yourself there.
Yeah, I did. When the end credits started rolling, that's when I enjoyed myself.
Well, I'm gonna.
Moving on.
Carlos is a queen of Chirac. Thank you very much, Carlos.
Yes. It was. It left a lot to the imagination.
In silence for Chirac. Thank you.
I know. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to go into it, but this is not the tee off on Chirac movie.
It is
hour. Because I can go on for a long time about all the really bad ideas that this movie decided to go down.
Let's keep this to the positive ideas that Midway is bringing to the table.
Exactly.
It is not Chirac.
Hell no, it ain't.
And as both producer and co-host of the show, I'm communicating with our guest, who will be coming on shortly. But I do want to say, so as we flushed out the ideas, I mean, we spent 8 or 9 months in pre-production on this thing. As Kevin, that's her name, as Kevin and Sean and Carlos. Carlos was around very early on as well. As all of us, and Risky, who's not here on this particular show, is
Speaking of things that are better than Chirac, DJ Risky Business.
But we were having was monthly meetings.
Yeah.
For a while, and then communicating, every week, kind of flushing out those ideas, and that was everything from how we wanted to go about just developing the story, how we wanted to reach people, how we wanted to get in contact with people, to just kind of everything, and of course all the technical logistics behind the thing too. So it was, we spent our time, and again, kind of like what we were talking about earlier with preparing for interviews. We did the same thing preparing for the film. Like again, the the cool thing is that all of us came up through Chicago hip hop, but at the same time, there's a lot. I mean, all of us are finding out that there's a whole lot that we didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, working on this thing, and that was kind of the same way. You know, we treated it very seriously from the beginning, as far as, again, doing our kind of due diligence and making sure we're asking the right questions and making sure we're, you know, kind of setting up things the right way. And here we are, like I said, 2.5 years later, and it's still going. So for those of you kind of late to the party, in the last few months, we've had some kind of major updates. The first being that we finally launched the Midway website. It was a coming soon page for a long time. And Barbara's a social media producer. When she came out of the team, the first thing she said was, "Why don't you have a website? Where's the website? You need a website."
Carlos said, "I know, right?"
What? Somebody said what I said? That happened?
So, you know, we launched that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We launched the website. Now, the website is going to serve a lot of purposes, and we're looking at this as kind of phase 1 of the website. So it's very informational. There's a lot of information that you can get on the film and kind of what's happening. One of the cool things that I think is going to draw a lot of people to it is that we have an entire page devoted to what we're calling the cast, which is everybody that we've interviewed for the film. And I want to stress, again, that's thus far. We're still interviewing. We're still filming. So if you have not been tagged on something, if you're not on the site yet, that just means we haven't filmed your interview yet. It's coming. I guarantee that it's coming. So, you know, a lot of people
when
we
you're
reach out to.
sending messages that says, "I am nothing but shy fire, and I am upset that I am not on this thing yet," we haven't reached out to you yet, but if you are that much fire,
you're on the list.
We'll be.
We
will be reaching out to you.
You got a long list to go through.
Yes. If people saw our list and they'd be like, "Oh, okay, I get it." Because, I mean, you know, and that's another thing that Kevin and Sean can speak out to, is, you know, when we first started this, you know, we're like, you can't fit 200 or 300 people into a 2-hour documentary. You just can't. It's just not possible. Yeah. So even when we first started, we're like, okay, who are the top 30 or 40 people that we need to talk to? But again, coming up as we did, we were like, well, you can't leave that name off, and you can't leave that name off. And the list kept growing to where it's like, you know what? Let's expand this into kind of a full-blown archival project. And that's what it did. And our list is very, very extensive, to say the least. So maybe Kevin or Sean, maybe one of you guys can kind of talk about kind of the thought process as far as making sure that we tell the story and not just a 2-hour thing. Like, there's some other things happening, and we want to make sure that we talk to as many people as we can who had everything from a little thing to do to Common and Kanye.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, the main point here is that Midway is more than just a film. Obviously, the film is a big part of what we're doing, the anchoring piece, but, you know, we're looking at this archival project and, you know, having the podcast and, you know, talked about doing a blog and all these different things and finding different ways to tell these stories, because there's so many stories to tell that we couldn't, you know, tell in this one documentary. We couldn't tell if it was a 10-year TV show, probably. You know, it's like there's so much information out there. So we have all these working pieces that are coming together to tell these stories, and some exciting things happening coming up. You know, you want to add on that? Anything, Sean?
Yeah. We went through a lot trying to, you know, coming up with names to interview, and just like Ryan said, if you haven't been interviewed yet, if we haven't reached out to you, we will reach out to you. If you are important, you know, we will get to you. You know, I just think that the archival project is pretty much what it is, and we have to have our story documented. This is exactly what it is. It's not even, you know what, the movie is, or the documentary is is not as great as the Archival project. The Archival project is really where it is, and we're going to finish it, and it's going to be done, and you will be in it.
And also in consideration, some people are not easy to find. So if you're out there, feel free to send that email. Hey, I'm not sure if you know where I'm at, because a lot of people, there's a lot of artists I remember when I first got on the Chicago scene who I have no idea what their real name is. So I wouldn't know how to even look for them. I just know them. I know a rap name, an alias, or a DJ name, graffiti name. So I might not be able to locate a lot of people because that's how I know their names. So if you're out there and you definitely were part of the scene, reach out. You can find Midway. We got we got the Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, emails, website. We're easy to reach. So if you know someone or are aware of that person, send us information. We'll definitely look into it for sure.
So here's a question that I think that should be asked. If you I know we have names written down, but there are people that we can't find. Yeah. So if there's somebody on the list that we can't find, maybe we should just reach out to them on this.
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
I want to reach out to Shauna. I don't think did we get in touch with her, Ryan?
Risky is our head of communications. You would have to ask him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely some names. We should put together a list of the MIA list, the ones we can't find, and start putting them out. Like today, earlier today, we were talking on this. I mentioned Scott Kellogg. He was a guy that put out the Talent Fest compilation in '95. That was early for '90s, showing what was happening in the city. A pretty diverse compilation, I think, for the time. And as far as I know, that guy put out the one compilation. I don't know if he ever did anything else as far as releases or what. But where is Scott Kellogg of Talent Fest?
Yep.
There's a lot of names like that. All kinds of people who've been involved in different ways. It'd be cool to hear their stories and perspectives, for sure.
Sure. Yeah, where are you, Scott Kellogg? Get out.
I was even thinking earlier today. I was thinking there's a few different things I remember that never really took off fully. Like a few different record labels that were started. There was one called Grassroots was the record label, and they had a pretty great marketing plan. They had a good artist lineup, but it actually never really took off. But I know they were going through all the steps. I'd be curious to know what happened there. Why did that label take off? What happened to the funding? There was a magazine. I don't even know what it's called, but I was at HBK once in '93, and there was they had a Finnish Chicago magazine of interviews with local artists and national artists, and it was really cool. I remember reading it at HBK and being like, man, this is going to be dope. And then it never came out. And I was like, what happened to that magazine? I know it exists. Someone had it. I had it in my hands. So, it's I like to hear those stories, too, those lost things that people worked on that never became the reality. So a lot of stories out there. Yeah.
Speaking of that story, our special guest of the day just joined us, Mr. Doug Infinite.
What up,
Hey.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We are good, man. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, no doubt. I wouldn't miss it. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Doug,
coming on from the West Coast.
Yeah, you can see it's still sunny over here.
Yeah. How long you been out there now, Doug?
About 12 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, about 12 years.
Hey, Doug.
Me in Minneapolis, so I've been here about 12 years, 13 years. Yeah. Okay.
Well, same time, huh?
Me and Doug are running in the same streets, so I wanted to show you this. I just got this in the mail today. Yeah, son. Yeah.
Oh,
Come
man. You're going to have a lot of angry people, huh?
Right. That's right.
Oh, man.
That's right.
Agitator.
Oh yes, but hey, so Doug, kind of, I think you caught kind of the tail end of what Kevin was talking about there. What do you have any projects that you worked on that may have never saw the light of day, that for whatever reason that you're kind of bummed about or mad that it didn't happen? Songs, projects, anything like that?
Well, I did a whole album that I never saw the light of day, so I don't.
What year was that about?
That had to be about '02, maybe '03, somewhere around in there. Definitely a whole album's worth of material, and probably a whole album's worth of material with Just Row and some of the people in his camp too. So that never really saw the light of the day, but I'm not bummed about it. I still listen to it, and I, think about putting it out, but it's kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
We do have this archival project that might be able to enjoy that album.
So for your solo album, was that like something you did for a label, or were you do it on your own and was trying to shop it, or what was the deal with that one?
I really was just concentrating on beats and just really focusing on beats, and I had so many beats, and Just Row used to come by my house. And I mean, he's just amazing when he gets in the studio. I mean, if I could play 5 songs, he'll write 5 songs to it. So it was just kind of being in that moment and being in that environment. And before I looked up, I had an album's worth of material just with him coming over and us building and doing the songs that way. It didn't have a purpose. It was just creating, imagining, all those things we do when we get in the studio to try to come up with something. And I had, literally, I probably at that time, I probably had 150 songs that were just sitting on the side, and then they were never going to see the light of day, and I was just making them faster than I could get rid of them. So he was like, let's record them, and that's what we did. Right. Yeah.
So you've done like a lot of stuff like, independently with independent labels, but you also did like something a little more on a bigger scale with Relativity and stuff like that. So what was kind of some of the differences of working with some different level of artists?
I think it's good with both. With the independent artists, I always felt like that it would be really great if independent artists, and I'm just speaking of a specific time frame, maybe somewhere around the mid to late 90s, right? And when you had to go to a major studio in order to get that big sound, right? You had to go and you had to spend a lot of money in order to make the song sound right. And I just always felt like it would be great if independent artists could have that same quality. So I really love working with independent artists for that, aspect to be like, man, it would be great if on the independent scene, if we could have even close to the quality that we were getting on the major label scene, because they're putting major money into it. We're recording on big console, large format consoles, big SSL, expensive studios with gold records all down the hallway, and they're using gear from the 1930s and 40s, vintage gear that you run it through, and of course it's going to have that sound. But on the independent level, you had a lot of cats working out of their home studio.
Yeah.
Maybe not even really able to get real studio time in like a real big studio. I just always felt like it'd be great to just up the quality, or just to be able to contribute to that in that way, like to be a part of that environment. So I really like that personally,
What was the first time you went to a real professional studio with a project that actually came out? What was your first time that experience?
That might be a trick question. I'm gonna have 2 answers for that, because the first time I probably was in a studio that had like real gear was probably Jeff at Hair Bear. And that was probably one of the first places that I went. But actually, those projects didn't come out. So you said a project that came out, right? Okay. So with a project that came out, it would probably be The Sudden Death that I did at J Chill Records. We recorded that in Streeterville, which was the home of all the blues legends. They all recorded there. Son of Seal and Coco Taylor and all these legends. They recorded there in the daytime, and we recorded there at night. One of my friends, he actually lived behind Coco Taylor's house.
Okay.
And we started going in there late night sessions, and that was a real studio. That was a real big studio, and that record actually did come out, although it didn't sell a whole lot of copies. But that's another story. But it was a great album to work on.
Now it sells for $400.
That's crazy how that happens. I can't even wrap my mind around that.
That's one of those songs I didn't hear when it first dropped. I didn't hear it till a few years later. I think the Moment put me up on that one. And when I heard that, I was like, you know, I was happy to hear it because it's so great, but I was so mad I missed it back then, like to hear it in that moment. So I always wonder, was there other music that you guys did together from that never came out for the Sudden Death? Did you guys do any more tracks?
Yes, we did a whole album with Sudden Death, a whole album worth of songs, and I talked to him recently, and I was like, man, please tell me you have those songs, because he kept the real. He kept the real, so there we can piece it together.
I got to get that real.
He doesn't have it. He said he doesn't have it, or he can't remember where he put it, which is probably going to end up in someone's storage, and it's going to end up somewhere, hopefully. But I think that a few people have some of the songs. It would be very interesting to get those together, because it was a whole album's worth of material.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me use that opportunity to do a quick plug for Midway. And one thing that we didn't get a chance to talk about earlier is our partnership with Columbia College and the Center for Black Music Research. We'll go into that a little bit later and then talk about kind of the process behind that. But I do want to say to Doug and anybody else who's listening is that with that, we have the ability to transfer a lot of different files. So if we can come up with that reel and you need a place to transfer it, just let us know.
That sounds awesome.
Hey, Doug, I had a question for you. Let's go back to a lot of the different artists that you've worked with. Has there ever been a situation where you've had, like, you're laying down some beats, and you had this artist who's just looking at you like a deer in the headlights, and you're like, oh boy, here we go. And then, like, they're about to choke. And then what was it, if that has ever happened, what was it that you did that actually got them comfortable and then got them actually to come out of their shell and actually lay down some rhymes?
I never really saw an artist that was like that per se, because that has never probably happened until, like, right now. Because to me, I mean, you know, I've always had this type of this type of person. It was like a superhero uniform. Like, I could put it on when I go around people that do what I do. If they b-boy or they make beats or they rhyme, then it was all good. But as soon as I take that off and walk 50 feet in the next direction, no one cared who I was or had any idea. They just thought I was the guy that sold skates or skateboard. A lot of people didn't even know about the beats or anything I was doing. So I think that it's kind of awesome that when I work with a lot of the independent guys, that they were shocked that, you know what I mean, I wasn't all about I'm only about the big budget. You know, if you're paying me a whole lot for the beat, then I'll do it. You know, sometimes it's about just, you know, creating stuff in that moment of time. Just to, you know, I have to create. I have to create and imaginate and do all those things, or I'll lose it. You know, so I don't mind collaborating with other artists, because to me, that's what makes the history. You know, sometimes it's not always about, you know, just getting paid. So I think it was a lot of artists that felt like that. I mean, I probably was more like that when Master Ace came by my house than he was.
For sure.
Has there ever been, is that the one guy that had you kind of like in awe, like, oh, I cannot believe I'm working with this guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a whole situation, because DJ Third Rail, shouts out to Third Rail, calls me one day, and he's like, yo, I'm coming from the airport, and I got Master Ace with me, and he wants to hear some of your songs. I was like, oh, that's cool, you know, well, tell me what studio, where we're at, and I'll bring some stuff through. I'd love to do that. He was like, nah, we're coming by your house. I was like, oh, you're coming by my house? I was like, when? He's like, we're on our way right now. So I'm scrambling, trying to get some stuff together. You know, I'm telling my wife, yo, Master Ace is gonna. She's in the music industry, so she knew. I'm like, yo, Master Ace is gonna come by here to listen to some beats. And of course, anybody that has a wife knows what that means, as far as, like, you know, the place has to be a certain way for anybody to come in. You know, it's just,
so not only are you making beats, but you're vacuuming and cleaning the windows and everything.
Exactly. Pulling the zip disc out at that time and playing that one, and, you know, maybe opening the closet or two and kicking records and stuff in there, because that's all I pretty much had. So, yeah, I think it was pretty cool. And then he shows up with Master Ace, and it was him and DJ AV, and they came in, and I played some joints for him, and that's how I got 2 joints on Long Hot Summer. You know, I probably played 100 beats for Master Ace, and then there was a couple. There's even a Master A song that I did with 2 verses that never got released also, and that probably will get released one day though. Okay. It's just a matter of fine tuning it.
So we got a little shout out here to the Fat Nice. He said, "Peace, everyone. I play Doug Infinite beats for my students to give them idea of sampling process."
Nice.
So there, your work is teaching people.
I'm big on the sampling process because to me, it's when I listen to a song, I don't know if the other people that are listening to that same song with me are hearing what I'm hearing. Because I don't know. I think maybe I'm listening to it like, if I could say, like maybe like on a granular level. Like I know that they're singing up there and I know that there's chords and music, but it's almost exploded to me when I hear it. And like the pieces are here and I can grab this piece, I'm gonna put that piece with this piece and this piece with this piece, and that's gonna make a whole new creation. So I think it's really good for the imagination, because that's the time when I get home from work or when I get some time to myself to create, where I could just go in and I could be that little kid again. I can just listen to another record that I'm going to sample and imagine that record being something else that's totally different. And it's funny because one time Von Doe, I was working with Von Doe and I was making the beat, and he was there, he was writing, and I was chopping it right from the record, and I was hearing all this great stuff, and I guess he didn't hear it, but I didn't know that at the time. So I'm chopping the beat and I'm putting it together, and then after I'm done, Von Doe goes, he says, I don't understand what just happened, and I don't know what just happened. I don't know. I just don't know what you heard that I didn't hear, but whatever you just did was incredible. And that was just funny to me, because I didn't realize that, he wasn't even, we were listening to the same record, but he wasn't even hearing what I was hearing. In his mind, He probably thought the record was whack. In my mind, I'm like, this is great. This is great. This is, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, what was the first equipment you made a beat on? What was the first thing you learned to make beats on?
Roland W30.
And how did that evolve over time until we got your set you feel really comfortable with?
As soon as I got some extra money, I couldn't get rid of that thing fast enough. So,
yeah, exactly.
It was like I could have been a computer programmer. Use a small little screen like this and a whole bunch of 16-digit numbers, and it was super complicated. I remember it was so complicated. I told No ID one time. He asked me why I wasn't using the filters on there. I said, "Oh, the filters on there are broke, man. They're broken. They don't work." He's like, "What do you mean they don't work?" I'm like, "Haven't been able to get them to work." And I think he spent the whole day one day just in that machine, just working, just trying to figure out. And he finally did. And he's like, "Hey, come here, look." And he figured out how to work the filters. That's how complicated it was. And he's like, to me, like No ID is like a real tech guru. That you give him any piece of equipment, and he's going to figure it out. And if it took him a whole day to figure out the filters, then I knew it was time for me to get an SP1200, which is exactly what I did. As soon as I got some extra money, I got rid of the Roland W30, and I got the SP1200 that JP Chill had sold. Either No ID or Twilight Tone. It was one of them, or maybe both of them, or maybe Twilight Tone sold it to No ID, and then I ended up with it.
Passed a lot of great hands right there. Okay.
I was happy to get that.
You used to have that.
So now my question is it your skill or is it that piece of equipment? Because maybe that equipment just had a bunch of magic coming off of it.
Well, let's see. If we think back on that piece of equipment, I made the Battle for Graph, and One Too Many for Common.
Okay.
And Real Quotes for Common.
Okay.
So off that one piece of equipment came those 3 songs. After that was the MPC. I made a lot of the other stuff.
There's magic just pouring out of that machine.
Yeah, you know what? It is so basic that you're going to have some magic in order to get something out of there that sounds good. You only got 12 seconds, so if you can actually put something together in there that sounds good, it's already going to be magic.
Look at
mine right there. You see mine?
There you go.
That last thing right there, you know.
Yeah.
Speaking of Common and stuff that you've done with him, one of my all-time favorite Common songs is also one of my favorite Doug Infinite beats, which was the B-side to 1999, like they used to say.
Oh my goodness.
To me, that track doesn't get enough props.
Hey Doug, and even Kevin, have you guys seen Rhythm Roulette? No.
Yes.
Check it out on YouTube. I wanted to see what you guys thought of that.
I think that's great. It captures what we've been doing for years. I mean, everybody's workflow isn't the same, but that's what we do. I always tell my kids that was original Pokemon, going out looking for records. That was the first rare Pokemon that anybody ever caught.
It's so good.
I've been catching Pokemon since 1983. Just going to record stores like, oh, here's a rare one right here. Look what I found, walking around from this store to that store. So, I mean, that's what we've always done is pick some record out and listen to it and try to find something that sparks our imagination and start deconstructing it only to reconstruct it again.
Yeah.
So I love the Russian Roulette. They blindfold you and you go in the record store and you pick a record and you're forced to make a beat out of that record. Which that was a period in time where people wouldn't make a beat out of a record that wasn't considered good. Like the records almost had to already be like,
right.
You could just play it.
Right.
Yeah. You could just play the record. It was already good. You didn't. You could have did anything on it. It was going to be good. But I think I certainly I used to tell SC this. I used to be like, there's no such thing as a bad record. Like everything is good. Like every record, there's something in it.
Yeah.
You might not know how to access the potential of it or figure it out for that day or that moment in time. But I guarantee you, if you keep that record long enough, you keep going back and you listening to it, one day you're going to make something out of that record that you didn't think was there.
Yeah.
So,
I go through the same record. I go through the same records that I had back in the 90s that I didn't make any beats out of at all because I couldn't find anything. I listen to them now, I'm like, what was I thinking? Now I'm like, I could have made the illest beat ever. How did I not? This did not sound right to me, back in '93 or whatever. But right now, it's like the perfect sample now. So it's like, you hear things differently as time goes on and everything. So yeah, those records. That's why I never get rid of no records. I keep all my records.
There's definitely some specific things that we were like go look for. But like Risky and I for a long time would go out, every Tuesday record shopping, and of course, people who are collectors know that Tuesdays was new release day. So it was, it was going out buying a lot of the new releases, and then we would always end up at, Out of the Past or Dusty Groove or someplace like that to find some other things. And, we were both producing at the time, and Risky still is, I'm not so much, but it was guaranteed that I would come away pretty much every week with one record that I had no clue what it was, and I bought pretty much just because of like the artwork or just whatever. And it was always great to find some gem. I mean, we're talking like Swedish horror soundtracks from 1969. And
my buddy, my DJ buddy Adam, we always play the game when we're DJing. Like, who was the RZA in the group? So you just look at the group and you just try to figure out who's the RZA in the group. Yeah. Like, that guy right there, that's going to be a hot record right there.
That's a good method. I got to remember that method. That's a good method.
Just find the RZA in the group.
And speaking of records, you got a new record, Doug, that the 7-inch just put out, the Go 7-inch. Speaking of that record, and it's a great record, by the way.
Thank you.
I've been playing on the radio out here. Let's talk about that record, how you put it together.
Well, I started off doing the Volume 1 with all natural ink. Shouts out to Tone B. Nimble for putting that together. And I did the first one with no ID. And it's been some time in between the first one and the second one. Yeah, there you go. Shouts out. I don't got it on the wall. that was the first one. So I always wanted to finish that idea. My idea to do that then was, to me, like a lot of MCs collaborate together. But sometimes not a lot of producers collaborate together. I know you got the Mad Lib thing, and there's a couple, things out there where producers collaborate. But if you look back to the days of jazz albums, I mean, those were some collaborations. I mean, everyone played with everybody. Herbie Hancock would play with Ramsey Lewis and so forth, and Miles Davis. Everybody down the line, they all played with each other from a musical standpoint. So from the sampler, it was an opportunity for me to work with other musicians, other producers, other talented people out there, and to not only be able to work with them, but to be able to actually put it out where people can play it, and it becomes a piece, a moment in time. Yeah. So on Volume 2, there's a young guy that the DJ community and the B-boy community really befriended me when I first touched down here in San Francisco, and I met the guy that I did go with, Chico. He was one of those guys with DJ Precise. Actually, a tidbit of history, DJ Precise bared the trip to drive from Chicago to California with me. Me and him in the U-Haul. You have to ask him about the iPod one day. So okay. we put about 30,000 songs on the iPod, all hip-hop, and we plugged it in the U-Haul, and we never repeated the song the whole way. 3 days, traveling across the United States to get from Chicago to San Francisco, California, with records filled up to the top of the U-Haul, way higher than they should have been, probably from the floor to the ceiling, from the front to back. Maybe all records and one bag of clothes is what I bought out here. So
here's a question. Here's a question for that trip. So I'm sure out of 30,000 songs, there's more than a few that were a little questionable that might have kind of slipped past on there. Did you guys skip anything, or did something come up that you're like, kind of looked at each other and like, all right, we'll let it ride?
You know what? That's a good. I don't think we skipped anything. I don't think we skipped anything. I think we just let everything ride. Come on, you're in the middle of you're on I-80 in the middle of Utah on the Salt Lake Flats. I wasn't worried about the radio, but Precise was keeping it going, and he's a DJ, so he might have been over there manipulating the playlist. I can't really tell you what he was doing over there. So I was doing the driving, he was doing the DJing, so kind of cool. I got to drive all the way to California with a personal playlist from DJ Precise. Yeah, but to make the story short, Precise hooked me up with a lot of DJs when I came over here. My brother-in-law, Alex Aquino, who used to run the International Turntable Federation, the competition, he was heavy in the DJ community too, and he had this startup, a DJ school that he was doing in California. So I used to always go there and hang out, and I used to teach some classes on the MPC there. But that's where I met Chico, and I always wanted to work with him. And I was like, yo, one day we're going to work. And I did a project with Greenweeds not too long ago, and he did some cuts on it for me. Okay. But when I did the 7-inch, I was like, I want you to do that stuff you do with the turntable, because he plays the turntable like it's an instrument, and he'll be playing the keyboard at the same time. And I was like, yo, we got to chop something up and got to have you contribute. And so
he kills it.
He kills it. And I sent it to him, and he called me back, and he was like, you mind if I alter it a little bit? I was like, no, that's what that's what I want. So I sent him the stems over for people that might not be in the industry to know the vocabulary what a stem is. I sent them the pieces of the song. So the drums, the bass line, whatever else I had put together musically, I sent them the pieces. And he put the pieces on the turntables and constructed the rest of the song go with just the turntable and the pitch control on the turntable. And he recorded that and then sent that back to me. Now I put more drums on it, more pieces, arrangement, and mixed it, and that's how we got the front side of that, the sampler Volume 2 go. And it was just like that. It was magical.
Hey, Carlos, can you play a piece of that go? Can you play a piece of that?
Oh, can I play a piece of that?
Play a piece of that go joint so people know what we're talking about here. Yeah.
You want that first one? The first one you sent me?
The second one.
The second one, the go.
Go.
Oh.
Yeah.
Here we go.
It's the most tremendous new musical experience you can have. Every kind of music for every kind of taste. And all in thrilling, new, living sound.
or not to play. We real ghetto with them. Yo. This time to build. Can you detect what's coming next? Can you detect what's coming next from the flex of the wrist?
Yeah.
In fact,
Yeah, little taste of it right there.
That's. I mean, if you could see that live too. I mean, we've done it a few times where we practiced it.
Okay.
It's incredible to see what he's doing, and I love to see what the younger generation is coming up with. It just blows me away. It's I was just happy. Yeah.
How do if they want to get that song, how do they get it, Doug? Where's it at? Where's it available digitally and all that? How can they find it?
Okay, if you want to get the song, if you want to get the vinyl,
yeah,
and you're international, you can go with Juno.com. If you want to get the vinyl and you're local, and I don't have any problems, I know a lot of people have been asking me to ink it up for them. You can get it at www.duginfinite.com. That's D-U-G infinite.com. And there's an order now button. You can order it right there, and I'll take care of the rest for you. If you're a DJ out there and you need a digital copy, you want to play it on the radio, you want to play it, you can contact me on any other social media. You can contact me at Doug Imp on Instagram, or you can contact me at Doug Infinite on Facebook. Message me, and I'll send you out the promo so you can play them on your Serato or however you need it digitally.
So,
no doubt.
I got a quick I just want to do a quick shout out to we got Mr. Joel Frieders and Miss Ange13 watching the show. Hello.
What's up, Ange?
Shout out, Ange. Joel.
Hey, Doug. While we're talking about DougInfinite.com and all your social media and stuff, when you were building up to the release of this album, I noticed that you were getting a lot of samples out. You're doing a lot of like YouTube videos. You're releasing a lot of social media stuff, which I loved because I think you are not just one of the coolest producers I've ever met, but you're one of the coolest people I've ever met. But, that's right.
We get emotional here.
Yeah.
But how has the music game changed since when you first got into it to this album now that you just released?
You know, shouts out to Phil Gates at High Power, because he's the one that really spearheaded all the social media. He shot all the pictures. He did the video. I was slow to social media. I got on Facebook early, and then I kind of was like, oh, I didn't really, get the whole gravity of it. So when Phil Gates started doing my website again, he was like, you got to have a social media or I can't do your website. I was like, you can't do the website if I have a social media? That doesn't make any sense. He's like, well, it's not going to make any sense to do a website if you're not going to have a connection to social media. I was like, okay. Here it is. Here's all my passwords to my Facebook, and here's my user login. Just go in there and do whatever you need to do, and make it happen to get the website done, right? And so he does it. Then the next day he calls me. He's like, hey man. I'm like, what's going on, Phil? He's like, I think you need to log into your social media. It's like, I thought you were going to do that. And he's like, well, there's like hundreds and hundreds of questions that these people have out here for you, and some of these people, I think they know you, and I think you need to take care of that. And I was like, really, Phil? So he totally sucked me into that, right? Then I got on there and I started to get the hang of it, and I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. I had no idea about the messaging and things that come a long way, and I started to get the concept of posting and everything, but I totally was oblivious because I was just in my music, and there was this whole other world out there that Phil exposed me to, and he does a really good job of taking care of all that. He's really good at like managing the brand, and that's why he actually contacted me and said, I don't like your website. It doesn't represent. He was.
What do you have to say
He
about
was straight. He was straight honest. He said, I don't like your website. It doesn't represent the brand the way I see you. I was like, well, I did it myself, and that's the best I could do. He said, well, I'm going to do you another one. We're going to take care of that. And from that point, we had been connecting. And it's been really nice working with him. We flew him out here to San Francisco. We took a lot of photos, and he shot some video work, and he's got a ton of photos. We did a lot of photo shoots, and he spent all day. Totally unrelated story. He tells me one day that he sees whales in the bay, because every day he'd hang out at the Golden Gate Bridge and just, you know, take these pictures, you know, like photographers do. They take pictures all day. That's what they do, and time lapse or whatever he's doing, right? And I said, Phil, there's no whales in the bay. I've been here 12 years. There's no whales. He's like, no, I saw whales. I saw water shoot down his back, and then I saw the big tails flash. He's like, I saw whales and seals. You know, it's his first time in California, first time in San Francisco, right? I was like, no, Phil, you didn't see any whales. And so I go over there with him one Friday, and I hang out with him all day. And sure enough, he saw whales. So, wow. You know, and that's the first time, you know, it got so warm that the whales actually came to the Bay Area, and it was actually amazing to me because I never saw any whales. And here he was out there shooting photography every day, and he's just like seeing whales left and right. So I took that as like a good sign from the.
Yeah, that's what we call beginner's luck.
Yeah, that's. Yeah. Shouts out to him. But he
time.
Yes. Yes. All right.
Let's get on the docket, Ryan.
Whoops, say that again, Kevin. Sorry.
Let's get on the agenda. Let's get on the agenda right now. We haven't gone through this.
So Doug, you know, one of the things that we like to talk about, since it's technically a Midway a podcast, you know, you're one of the ones that we've been able to talk to so far. So maybe just give a quick kind of your experience as far as being approached for the project. What does archiving Chicago hip hop and kind of creating this story, what does it kind of mean to you?
I think it's very important because as a so-called scholar, or you know, somebody that I like to read. You know, I go to school now. I go to San Francisco State. You know, I'm not against learning. I'm not against, you know, going in. I went into the music and recording industry program over there, and I finished it. And I took a lot of musical courses like jazz history and American music history. And I really compare hip hop to being the same thing as like jazz was. Like in the beginning, you know, you didn't dress up to go to a jazz concert. It was not a high class thing. It was low class, you know, down into the little small taverns and maybe little dive bars in New York where jazz musicians used to play all this great music, and people would go there after work and just do that. I mean, you know, there was some time in the 20s, of course, where people were dressing up. But I say that to say now, if you go to a jazz concert, it's this very high culture thing where, you know, grown people are going and they putting on, you know, their best dress and they're walking in there. And I look at hip hop as being the same. And I often would think like, but who's documenting our history to make sure that it's accurate, or, you know, getting all the pieces together so that when that time does come in the future, and 10, 15, 20 years from now, when kids are taking this as a course in college and, you know, Chicago hip hop history, somebody has to have done the groundwork to put those pieces together so that when people are doing it, that it makes sense and is kind of accurate. So I was super excited when I was approached, because I was like, this is great, because I don't want to take any of this information with me when I'm going. I want to make sure that I've left it all here for everybody to take and be able to do whatever they can do with it to bring it to the next level. It's worthless if I have it and have experienced it and I can't share it with others, especially the people in the hip-hop community, because, I mean, with me, I come from a few different backgrounds: b-boy, hip-hop, obviously, producing, whatever, MCing sometimes, and DJing sometimes, but skateboarding also. And I look at those cultures, I look at hip-hop and I look at skateboarding, and I kind of see like this comparison, and I'm like, what's really interesting is that kids in America haven't created a whole lot of things, but they definitely created skateboarding, and they definitely created hip-hop. Yeah. And America can't claim a lot of things that they actually created. Like, this was America created.
Yeah.
So I feel that it was very important because even for that fact, I'm like, this is something that us as kids, we created. Like the skateboard industry, we developed products around that we could use to do our trades. So I think the only difference is I think we could just, I wish we could figure out a little more how to harness the entrepreneurial power of what I think the hip hop could offer if we all really just got together and probably supported each other and reinforced that. I think we could really build something strong and make better products for the people who actually do it, because we know. So that's what I mean by the information. I want to share that information because we know the information. I mean, now there's software companies and different hardware companies that are making tools that we use to make music, but there's still things that we know that no one probably has access to.
True. Kind of building from that, like, you know, and I'm sure there's several examples. You want to give an example or two of artists in Chicago who you were a fan of or saw potential in, who never quite made it to a national scale, like someone you thought was like could have been you know, a shining person, but didn't have that, you know, label backing or whatever, or just never got an opportunity because we didn't have that infrastructure in Chicago. Any artists stand out to you for that?
Oh yeah, there were so many. You mean so you talking producing or are you talking MCing?
Wherever you want to go.
Well, I thought that Sudden Death had a lot of potential. I mean, obviously I work with him. I'm not saying that just because I work with him. I just think that he had a lot of potential, and it's tough, you know. It's a long time from start to finish on a project, and in between that time, even though my hands are not that wide on the screen, but if you just imagine that being a wide time, in between that time, there's a lot of things that can go wrong and happen in a life where people, you know, for one reason or another, they're not able to get that. But I really thought that Steady Serve would be a big thing. I mean, he, you know, B-Boy, and he had the dope record with Andy C, which I really love. I love that record so much, and I just really thought that, you know, he would have been definitely one of those ones that really took it way over the top. There's Juice, of course. I mean, and I think that Juice has done well.
Yeah.
But I thought that he would be the biggest, or near the, you know, biggest, especially at one time with the way that I just used to hear him outside of different parties and venues, just like, you know.
Mind blowing.
Yeah, mind blowing. Just mind blowing. Just like, wow, that's like really, really crazy. I think the other person I would give that to, who I think I know at one time that was definitely so much better than me in production, if he's even probably still is. I'm not trying to judge it. I'm just saying that I used to look up to him because his quality of music was good, and that would be Rhythm, Sean.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably don't know Rhythm, but
they will.
Rhythm is incredible. He was doing so many things early, and I really thought that he would be, you know, him and No ID, to me, when I would listen to their material, they were like, you know, like this. It was an honor to like play stuff for them. It's almost unbelievable when I play something for them and they say it's good. It's like, really? Are you serious? Because I mean, they just really were masters of the machine. So I really thought that Rhythm would be more like a, you know, just a longer longevity in the game, in the forefront of the game. And I'm not saying that these people don't have successful careers in hip-hop, because if anyone knows me, my motto is I celebrate the smallest victory that you could possibly have. It could be something as simple as selling one record, and I will party like it was platinum.
Yeah.
Because I already know, if you're just waiting for the one big chance and opportunity, then you may sit down and frown and be unhappy your whole life until you get that one opportunity. But what I know is if I keep celebrating those small ones, I'm going to party the whole way. So it doesn't matter. You know, you rather party the whole way or you rather sit around and just be uptight until you get that one big one. So for me, even if it's small, I'm happy with it. I'll take that as a win, as a victory, and be like, let's move on to the next one. So I think that everyone has done pretty good in their careers as far as Chicago hip hop. I just thought that those people would have really, to answer your question, just taken it really, really, really far.
Yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned rhythm, because that's another, like, that is a perfect example of why we're doing this film. And we've already interviewed Rhythm, and people will find out his place in the story, but to keep it condensed and for here, you can make the argument that without Rhythm, there's no Kanye West. Yeah. That's how that kind of stuff links up. Got Rhythm, No ID, yourself. You know how it just kind of goes on down the line. So it's like the people that might not be that. Maybe people in Chicago might not be familiar with, have had their thumbprint somewhere on some of the biggest things, and that's one of the main reasons that we're doing this, is to show those unsung heroes.
Yeah, I think you're. Let me grab that one, because he got me in a moment, because that's that spiral learning, right? Where when you're producing, maybe Rhythm's doing something in his production that I'm maybe going to put in my production and then turn it this way, and now that becomes a piece of my production. Then this guy takes that and turns that way, maybe even thinking that it's all mine, when really it was just, we were all building, because from a production standpoint, we always shared the R&D in the beginning. We weren't, no one was signing the NDA to be like, yo, show me how to loop up a beat. Well, sign this NDA first, and then I'm going to show you how to put 4 bars together. No, it was all good. You want to know how to loop up the beat, you got to turn that, or you got to do that, or maybe work a little bit on that. So the R&D, the countless nights that we spend in there slaving over the machine and learning stuff, and sometimes you would do something or see something when working with another person, and because it was a process more than anything, I might not be making the beat to sound like yours, but you may do something in your process that I could add to my process that will make me a better producer. And then somebody else may see me do that process, and then they may take that process and then they put their twist on it. And someone takes that process and they put their twist on it. And all the way until we get to where some kid is doing it and you're looking at it and you don't even recognize it as being something that you ever touched. Right. But it actually is. So I definitely agree with you on that, because that's exactly, it's from a technical production standpoint, how it happens. I mean, shouts out to Profound. I just did a lot of songs on his project too, Distance Gratification. But
and I was gonna mention him because a couple things real quick. Shout out to Riddell, who's been watching the show from the beginning, and Chris Schultz has been watching.
Shout out.
Profound hit us up, and he just wanted to say that he says you are his Master Yoda. So,
Profound's a big Star Wars fan. He always makes the references that sometimes I work there, and sometimes I don't. I have to think about what he just said. Like, oh, okay, I got it. So he does do that, and I think I was going to say that one time I gave Profound. This is sometimes the best ways to help people. So one time when Profound was over, a little early stages, because he's an excellent MC and he's a great beat maker. It's just multi-talented. And he came to San Francisco, and I gave him a compact flash of some of my beats. Not so much that the beats was on there, but I knew that he was going to go back to the lab and back engineer them, as he should have, because that's why I gave it to him, right? And it was great, because when I gave it to him, he would call me and he would have these discoveries. And it was kind of fun to me to try to unravel where he was in the discovery process, to be like, oh, yeah, I did do that. He'd catch it and be like, oh, yeah, that was a good one, right? So he's adding to his arsenal. And I think I've done that with Precise. I think I've done that with SC. I know that I've done that with Kanye. I know that I've done that with countless people that have been around me. I've always kind of shared the R&D and just try to give people what they needed to survive as an entrepreneur in this hip-hop game and advance the workflow, because I can't hold that stuff into me. There is some stuff that I hold into me and some stuff that I can never put in words, or even if I showed people, it would probably be like, but for the most part, if I could help out somebody, that's what I try to do through the process. So
has there ever been a collaboration? You know, you keep talking about passing a beat to someone else or whatever. Was there ever a collaboration that took you off guard? You're like, whoa, okay, so he talked to them, and then this magic came out, and wow, I didn't expect that. Has that ever happened in your career?
As far as my music, or watching someone else's
music, and yeah, watching someone else. If kind of like what you said, you passed something off to Profound, and he created something. Was there ever a duo out there, and you might be part of the duo that created something? You're just like, whoa, that's hot.
I think when I saw Common do the song, and I heard the song that he did with De La, The Business, I think that really caught me off guard, and it was I think a time in his career where I was like just like wow, that was just like a great song and a great collaboration, and I wasn't really expecting it, and it kind of caught me off guard a little bit. So I think that was definitely one that I could remember just like right offhand. It's just being like odd, because I mean, you know, I'd seen Tom rap with a lot of Chicago MCs and some New York MCs like the Beatnuts early on and stuff like that, but De La was kind of like a whole another thing. And when he did that song was being well played, and probably still is very well played. And it was a good song, and it kind of caught me off guard. I was like, oh, you can collaborate like that now. So I was like, I get it. I get it.
Very cool.
And I kind of want to mention that I really appreciate your perspectives here, because you mentioned some very important things I think are good lessons for artists out there. One, the importance of being a mentor and mentorship, having a mentor and then becoming a mentor, and then the fact that, you know, you mentioned about how you just really learn to appreciate the small things and the small steps. And I think that's probably a big reason why you're still so passionate about making music. So many people, you know, think about only the big victories, and they get bitter and they don't want to make music, and they leave behind because they're not getting those achievements. But you've already like recognized that, you know what, I'm going to celebrate the small things, and that's a great lesson for artists, I think. So I just want to give you props for, you know, being that kind of person to understand that. So just give me some props. No question. Props.
Thank you for the props, but I'm pretty sure that comes from skateboarding.
Yeah.
If you think about it, if I spend all day 8 hours in the Dominic's parking lot, skateboarding on a curb, getting chased by the security guard 5 to 6, 7, 8 times out of the same spot on a curb that people are probably looking at like, what is wrong with this guy? He spent this whole day, I've been at work and I came home, and he's still skating a curb. Right. And all you're looking for is this marginal increase in what you're doing. It's not even a huge thing, like you're about to go do some amazing thing. All you're going to do is slide this much longer than you slid last time. And you're going to be like, I did it. People look at you like you're crazy. So I think from skateboarding, I learned that, like, you know, I'm not going to go in the ramp and do a McTwist, but if I do a good grind, a little longer than the last grind I did, that's worthy of celebration. It's, you know, from a skater's perspective, I think. And I think I've taken that from skateboarding and I've applied it, you know, into my life, and it keeps me happy because I realize that, hey, if I could just get a little better than I got last time, that's great. That's fantastic, you know. And then if I could keep doing that, that's great.
That's awesome. What you working on now, man? What's coming up next for Doug? What you got in the plans
for the future?
Yeah, you know, like anything, any music projects coming up in the near future or anything?
Yeah, so obviously the Profound. I have quite a few songs on that project that he just dropped. I think he dropped like 23 or 24 songs called Distant Gratification. I got quite a few songs on there that I did with Profound that are really good. Okay. Of course, everyone knows I have my my project right here, the Sampler. Yep. Is that right? There you go. The Sampler Volume 2. It's on 45. You can get these. And what I'm working on for the Sampler Volume 2 right now is this. So what I'm doing is I'm hand cutting these skateboards. Whoa. They're all going to have custom shapes, and they're all going to have original art. and they'll come with a copy of the sampler volume 2. It's going to be very limited. I'm in the process of cutting them.
So then, how much is that going to cost me? Because looks like I'm gonna get.
You get one,
right? Get one.
I know somebody that would really appreciate that skateboard for sure.
Son,
I might have to order some more, huh?
Yeah, at least 5.
It's a lot of hard work. You know, I'm in there with the jigsaw and the sander and the safety goggles, and I'm in there putting the hard work into it. Like, yeah, this has got to be.
Every word he is saying is an increase of $10 to $15.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, then that's an add-on project. So just cool things like that. Always looking to. I mean, many people know I had the skateboard shop, and I tried to bring into the skateboard shop a piece of myself. So like I sold, me and my dad. Shout out to him. And but I brought in like graffiti magazines. I had a huge collection of graffiti magazines and hip hop magazines and Mean Streets, fat caps, thin caps, kneecaps or whatever, fat laces, jumbo laces. Mark Echo when it was still coming with the Lyricist Lounge tape, distributor for Tony Touch mixtapes. I helped Shyrock in Volume 1. Used to get ads in their magazines and make sure I supported them. So I tried to always put little pieces of myself and the things I do, and I think I kind of want to do the same thing with the records. Like, I mean, just the record is cool. I don't know, you get it in the mail and it's cool, but I think when it comes with something else, it's cool. It's even more of an experience for somebody, even if it's in a limited amount. And so if I can create those type of things, I think it'll be real good for, like, everybody all the way around. I don't know where it's going to go, I don't know. I don't have any high expectations about it. It's just something I want to do and put out there. I was like, it'll be cool to do Dex. Then probably next time I'll do something else. It won't be Dex. It'll be something else. And then the next time it'll be something else until I can't do it anymore.
For sure. What draws you to an artist? So, like, if out there right now, someone listening, they want to work with Doug Gifford. They want to rhyme to one of your beats. What draws you to an artist? What makes you want to work with someone else?
Knowing that they can not only make the song, but here's the key point to me: knowing that they'll put it out. There's too many songs that I've done in the past. It's too much material that it just hasn't come out, and that doesn't really help the cause to me across the board. I don't really even care how it comes out. At this point, it's just like we got to get it out.
Yeah.
And I realized that, me too. I had a lot of stuff that I didn't come out with. So that's why this project was really big for me, because it was like, okay, I want to be able to lead by example. If people, I'm going to put stuff out. I want to not only get the stuff and record the stuff and spend money in the studio to make it sound nice, but I'm going to go all the way to do whatever it takes to complete it and to see that it gets out, no matter what. And I think that's what draws me to artists. That's what always draws me to Tone Be Nimble and All Natural and Cap D and Greenweeds and Spotlight, Daily Plant. That whole crew is that they were coming out with the record, They would do it and record it. It'd come out. It'd be on vinyl. You go in the store, you see it up on the shelf, and it would, go, and they would go and do these shows, and that just made me want to work, because it makes me feel like that the work we're doing is actually a part of this movement that's really taking it somewhere, because it's coming out. Kind of when I do a good song and it doesn't come out, it's kind of a little bit of a bummer, a little bit, because it's like, oh, that was a good song, and now it may not ever come out,
Yeah.
Is there one MC in Chicago, past or present, that you have not worked for or worked with that you would like to? What's that one person you're like, man, I haven't got a chance yet?
Akbar.
That dude was born to rap.
Akbar. I mean, I've been trying to work with Akbar for a long time, and it just has never, really went all the way. But definitely one of the guys in Chicago, one of the MCs that I haven't had a chance to work with at all, that I would man, I think it would be good.
You got to make that happen.
Yeah,
I think that's something that we can help put the wheels in motion to.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be awesome.
Alfar's one of those guys. Whenever I hear him rap, I just know he was born to rap.
Yeah.
So natural with it. It's just like it's undeniable that he was born to do it.
Yeah. I like it. That's a big fan of his music. And I've worked with a lot of Chicago MCs, so that's a hard question, right? Because I started to think like, oh no, I did a song with him, even if it wasn't indirectly cameoed on it or whatever. So I think that other people that was, because me and Slang are really close. I mean, Slang had a shop down the street from my studio on 95th Street. He had Slang right down the street, and I had Jay Chill, so he's a little bit down the block. And we had been, hanging out ever since then, and I know he was always pushing that too, and it just didn't happen. But I think that would have been or will be. I'm just speaking into existence. It will be great when we do it.
It will be. All right.
Sure. So I mean, as we kind of close this out, one of the kind of fun things that we're going to do with people is just ask a couple of quick multiple choice answers. Actually, it's just going to be more of a this or that type thing.
Oh, man.
So, Mr. Doug Infinite, skateboarding or b-boying?
Wow.
My brain can't even calculate that.
You see, I'm over here like, ugh.
Dang. Woo. I'm gonna go with.
Whoa.
If I had to choose, was this the end of the world or something? I can't understand this.
It's only like 10 minutes left before Armageddon. You can do one of the two things before you die. What are you going to do last? Your last thing on Earth.
All right, answer in 2 seconds. Ready, go.
Okay, that would be skateboarding. If it's Armageddon, it's only 3 seconds left. I'm grabbing the board and I'm trying to skate everything I can before the bomb hits.
All right.
Nice.
Definitely.
He's going to grind up the bomb as the bomb is landing on the ground.
I'm going to ollie and sink. When it blows up, I'm going to ollie at the same time and just disintegrate.
That's passion right there, son. That's passion.
All right. Sample-driven beats or original?
Sample-driven, without a doubt.
I had a feeling that you'd say that, so kind of a follow-up question to that. Just Parliament samples or James Brown samples?
James Brown. You can make records for the rest of your life off of probably one James Brown album. You can sample it a million different ways, or you can just listen to it. But I'm a roller skater too, so you give me a JB record, I'm going to be able to find a lot of uses from that. So, yeah, I take the JB.
All right. Chicago Bulls, Golden State Warriors.
You know I gotta go to work tomorrow, right?
Yeah, but you gotta go home sometime.
That's right. No, it's no doubt about it. I am just a kid from Chicago, so I got to go with Chicago sports teams first. My wife is from San Francisco. The house is divided, so we get a little bit of it both. But I got to go with the Chicago Bulls on
but for real,
that one. But the I mean, rain or shine, whatever it is, it's what it is. That's I'm not gonna be a fair weather or sometimes fan. So I was with them doing the good years. With them doing the good years. I'm gonna stay with them now.
I'm like you, but let's take a second to take a look at what the Warriors are about to do to the world.
They are a great team, but I can't leave my wife because somebody else that's doing good right now comes along. I've been with Chicago Bulls since Reggie Theus and Artis Gilmore. So how can I change now? I'll be like
Shadale Threet
You know what? I'll be like everybody else that just put down their Miami Heat hats and other type of hats and picked up the Golden State Warrior hat and put it on. I just rolling. I took a lot of losses, had a lot of headaches, I had a lot of heartache. Yeah. I'm grabbing on to yesteryear. You know, I'm way back in the 90s, you know, talking about, you know, having conversations about a teen 20 years ago. But that's just what it is. I just roll with it.
That's it.
You know, there's a lot of people. There's some Chicago blood in there though with the Golden State Warriors that particularly have to do with this project and Chicago hip hop, which is Mr. Cap D from All Natural.
Can't wait to ask him that question.
Yeah, you got Cap D. Well, you can't ask Cap D that. That's going to be easy. He got to go with work.
He walks up to his office. There's a pink slip taped to it. They don't even talk to him. They're like,
I understand that. But let me say that Mr. Kelly decided, I'm going to call him Mr. Kelly for the role that he's in right now. Mr. Kelly decided that he would wear a Golden State Warrior shirt for his interview with us.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, he's a smart man.
Said that. I'm gonna make sure I'm all red and blacked out.
Yeah, I mean he's a smart guy. Housing in the Bay Area is not cheap. I would go with work too. You got to go with work.
Let's be real.
Cool. All right, guys, this has been fun. This has been a good episode. Want to kind of close it here real quick with a little bit of house cleaning from Midway, and that's one of the things that I want to mention is our crowdfunding campaign through Seed and Spark. As a lot of you may know, may have seen us posting stuff for the past couple of weeks. For 3 years now, almost 3 years, this project's been completely self-funded out of the pockets of those that you see in front of you, and you know, in order to kind of sustain that and make sure that we can finish production, principal filming and everything as soon as we can, because we know you guys want to see this. We get asked every single day, when is it out? Where is it? Where can I see it? We're still filming it. So kind of in order to help us get to that kind of next step or whatever, we're looking to you, the community, to kind of help us get a little bit to help get some stuff that we need, because there's some people like Doug who don't live in Chicago that we need to travel to get to, who are very important to the story. There's all sorts of equipment expenses. There's just general web hosting and hard drives and all that other kind of stuff that kind of take a toll after a while. So we're looking to you to kind of help us with that, and we got 12 days to do it. We're a little bit behind the 8 ball, but we got some time to do it and time to make it happen. So if you go to tinyurl.com/fundmidway, that is the link, and that's to our campaign, and whatever you can give or if you can share, but you know, whatever we can help out with, man, will help us out a lot, and we thank you for that, and we thank you for everybody who's donated and shared thus far. As we close out, I also want to say that this show has been sponsored by Genesis Art Supply, and we have been working with Genesis a little bit for production on the film. We thank them for that. Genesis Art Supply is located at 2525 North Elston. It's been family owned and operated since 1946. And they are Chicago's premier location for art, drafting, framing, and airbrush needs. Their emphasis is on community, and they're the one-stop shop for all your creative needs. They've got an 18,000 square foot location. And that is also the home of Q4 Radio, galleries and event spaces for classes, gallery shows, artist meetups, and more. So check them out, Genesis Art Supply. And our
Ryan, let me interrupt you real quick. This is how far back we go with Genesis Art Supply. When I was in Chicago a couple weeks ago, Ryan and I were talking, and he was telling me about Genesis and all this stuff, and I was like, wait a minute. Back when I went to school, at Triton College, I started an art club, I guess it was called, and we had our little newsletter and stuff. Genesis Art Supply was our first advertiser with them. So we go back with Genesis for a long time.
Yes, so take a look at them and get them if you need anything creative. Our second sponsor for the night is Emporium Arcade Bar, and they've got 3 locations. Wicker Park. Sean Doe, what are the other 2 locations? The sheet didn't pull up in time for me.
It's 2 in Wicker and where? Barb?
Isn't there one in Logan Square?
There is one in Logan Square.
And in the suburbs, actually, I think, in like Deerfield or something. Ryan's pulling it up.
I just had a little quick computer freeze, so I apologize for that.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, they got 3 locations. They got the Wicker Park location, which is 1366 North Milwaukee, Logan Square, 2363 North Milwaukee, and in Lake County, that's 275 Parkway Drive. And you can check out more information on them at EmporiumChicago.com. So we thank them for being supportive of Midway Radio. Last but not least, there's a couple of events and shows coming up this week. Sean Doe, you want to give the listeners a quick update of what's coming up this week?
Sure, definitely. Sub T Tuesdays, 606 Entertainment. You know, they have their normal freestyle, hip hop night, and $10 Tuesdays at Beauty Bar.
Boom.
Bam. One final shout out to Mr. Howard Bailey, and he says, Doug, he wants that plant that you have in the background.
What did he say?
He said he's going to come. He said he's going to come and steal the plant that you have in the background.
Oh yeah, I love this one. She's a beauty. You can't see; she's pretty tall. Look. That's wow.
Gotcha. Might be about as tall as Howie. I see you, Howie.
All right, guys. Last but not least, the show's been produced by 278 Media and Gomez Creative Labs. And we thank you until next week, 8 o'clock Chicago time. Check it out. We'll see you next time. Peace, y'all.
By the way, listen to this. Looks like I had a computer freeze too.
While you figure that out real quick, I want to get a shout out
cool too.
Thanks for coming on with us and hanging out with us for the show, man. We really appreciate you coming through.
Thanks, Doug.
Yep.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you. Thank you.
Doug Imp's son.
Before we go, we gotta have Doug listen to this real quick. So go ahead, Carlos.
I'm a first-degree murderer, serving the gas. I got the book in a second while I'm ripping the record. Remember the roll of revolvers is all balls and stands on the wall. Cause you diss me. I find my records in your face like a frisbee.
Like a frisbee, huh?
Look at that sudden death. That's a penalty.
Yes.
Peace.
Yes. Awesome. Thanks, Doug. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. We'll see you soon. 8 p.m. Mondays, guys. Midway Radio continues. Peace.
Peace.